Hi, I'm John Nichols. I am the consumer coach and I am the founder of itisdone.net, and I am here with Dean Brittenham, who is the founder of braininabag.com. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring Dean on today is a lot of times when consumers are thinking of health, they think of physical health and health clubs and health, nutritional supplements and such, but a lot of times people don't really think about brain health and what kind of things need to be done with the brain-body connection. And Dean has a very unique service that I would like the audience to hear. So first of all, Dean, tell the audience a little bit about your background and what you were doing before you started braininabag.com.
Well, I graduated from the University of Nebraska and then got a master's at Colorado and started teaching physical education. And like most everybody, coached and taught, and then I got drawn into college coaching at the University of Kansas and coached there track and field, then went to Occidental and coached track and field there, and then went back to Nebraska and coached. And at Nebraska, Bob Devaney came to me and said, can you help us be a faster football team? We can beat the big, slow Big 8 teams, but when we go down and play LSU or Florida State, they're too fast. So we started the first legitimate off-season training program. And in 2 years, Nebraska was the fastest team in the nation and won 2 national championships. And the program evolved then from a speed improvement program to an athleticism program as we worked with I went to the University of Colorado then, worked with their football team, and went to the Minnesota Vikings and New England Patriots. And all these places, they wanted better athletes. So the program was an athleticism program. And then I went to the Indianapolis and opened up the National Institute for Fitness and Sports. And here we started working with sports athletes in all sports. We worked with Notre Dame basketball, men's and women, Butler University basketball, and with people in all sports. And the USTA sent us probably 50 tennis players to evaluate and coach. So we worked with people in all sports, and then eventually I went to La Jolla, California, and opened up a clinic at Scripps Clinic with the hospital conglomerate there. And again, we had athletes in probably 10 different sports in the same class, and we would teach what we called athleticism. Well, our teams had great success, it seemed like, wherever we put this program in. And we had 4 people become number 1 ranked tennis players in the world: Venus and Serena Williams, Lindsay Davenport, Jim Courier. We had 4 guys drafted in the baseball draft in 2000 in San Diego, with Adrian Gonzalez being the number 1 pick. Well, after I tried to retire, I started reading books about the brain, and after reading 35 books, I discovered that what I was doing to improve athleticism, I was inadvertently growing the right hemisphere of the brain. And my athletes and teams were becoming whole brain thinkers, and this accounts for the success that we had just at about every level and every sport. And so I decided to take the tools that we were using in the athleticism program and put them in a backpack. And there's 10 tools in the bag, and there's probably 10 different drills you can do with each one getting progressively more difficult. And a lot of people have come up with even more drills with the various tools in the bag. And it's exactly what the research shows, that the more activities you learn, the more mental maps you make, the more motor maps you make, and the more the brain becomes efficient, and the brain becomes a whole brain thinking brain with synchronicity between the right and left hemisphere.
Dean and I are Nebraska fans. I played at the University of Nebraska in the mid-'80s, and we're coming to you from Lyons, Colorado. And it's kind of a small world, but I've been coaching football and helping with the track team and teaching history for quite a long time, and I'm taking a leave of absence. But Dean has worked with our athletes for years, and it's just been fascinating. One of the things that Dean got me excited about, he was coaching my son in the discus about this time 2 years ago, and he was having my son juggle doing warm-ups before throwing the discus, and then he started challenging me to juggle, and I'm an ex-lineman, so I was pretty clumsy. But Dean really inspired me to really try to do that, and to make a long story short, 2 years ago I learned to juggle, and then slowly but surely I've been so addicted to some of these brain-body activities that I've got to the point now where I can actually juggle while doing karaoke, juggle on the ground while doing karaoke, and I can actually juggle on a unicycle. And that's actually going to be posted on my website, so you can see the big ex-Nebraska clumsy lineman juggling on a unicycle. Again, the two websites, the one for Consumer Coach, which is mine, is called itisdone.net, and Mr. Brittenham's website is called braininabag.com. So Dean, you talked a little bit about the website. Just tell us a little bit more about braininabag.com. You mentioned already what motivated you to do so, but what are some of the activities that can be done through the things that are in the bag itself?
Right. Well, the research shows that the more you cross the horizontal and vertical midline of the body, this tunes up the brain and grows the brain. And so they've done research on juggling. And the University of Regensburg, they had 24 students. They did an fMRI of the brain of all 24 at the beginning of the semester. During the semester, the professor taught 12 of them to juggle. At the end of the semester, I did an fMRI of the brain. The 12 that learned to juggle, the brain had grown 3% during the semester. The 12 that did not learn to juggle, their brain was still the same size, even though they learned the material. They repeated this study at the University of London, and there the juggler's brain grew 4%, and the non-jugglers stayed the same. So juggling is one of the key ways in which to grow the brain. So in the bag, there's things called bricks, and these are like what W.C. Fields used to use, cigar boxes. And if you looked up on the internet and look up cigar box juggling, well, that's what we do with small foam bricks that any age person, 5 on up to 85, can use these foam rubber bricks. And then we have little paddles that you put in your hand and a ping pong ball, and you bounce it from hand to hand, a foot high, 2 feet high, or 3 feet high. Bounce it on a hardwood floor, bounce it against the wall, bounce it back and forth to a partner, or actually use the 2 paddles and have a string across the room and play like badminton. And there's a 24-page booklet in the bag to give you instruction on how to learn to juggle and how to do each activity. There's also an instructional DVD in the bag. There's a jump rope. Jumping rope is probably the single most beneficial activity to grow the brain, because we're using both feet, both hands. We're listening to the rope as it goes around. We see the rope and we feel the rope. So it's the most complete single exercise there is. And on the website, Abby Spears, who became a 2-time national tennis champion for girls under 18 as a 16 and 17-year-old, she would actually jump rope and go complete around the track, doing different steps and routines as she went around the track jumping rope. But she also became an expert juggler, and she became a whole brain thinker as a 16-year-old and completely dominated other girls in tennis that were under 18.
So for people like me who want to learn to juggle but are naturally clumsy and afraid to be embarrassed, how would you recommend getting started? For instance, for me, one of the things I had to do was kind of go off by myself because it was a little embarrassing. And at first I was fumbling around with the ball, and I probably didn't take some of the strategies that Dean had later shown some of my students as far as learning to juggle, and I want him to share that with you. So I had to kind of go off by myself a little bit. I remember we were at a beach house at Lake Michigan, and I would go out early in the morning or late at night when nobody was around and just practice and practice and practice. And finally, I was able to develop that skill. But for those of you who are thinking, oh, there's just no way that I could go out and juggle, Dean, tell us a little bit about just some simple ways to get started, maybe a little bit of a progression so people kind of have a strategy, you know, as far as learning how to juggle.
Yeah. Well, what you just said is a great example of growing the brain. You had to make a new mental map to juggle, and then you had to make a new motor map from that mental map to the hands to actually juggle. But we start people with just one ball, or if these are younger children and all, we start with silk scarves. And you just come across your body, throw the scarf up above your head, it floats down, lands in the other hand. Well, the same with the tennis ball, one ball. We don't even have them catch the ball to begin with. We let it drop, bounce on the floor. We use tennis balls. Then you take the other hand, throw it across your body, up above, a foot above your head, let it drop to the ground. As you get good, with perfect throws, then you put your hand out and it just drops down in your hand. Then you throw that hand ball up and it lands in the other hand. Once you get good with one ball, then you go to two balls. And we don't catch them again. We throw ball one up with the dominant hand, and then throw ball two up. As soon as the ball one gets a foot above the head, then throw ball two up. They drop on the ground. Then we progress to throw ball one up, throw two up, and catch ball one, but let two drop. Then we eventually get better and better. We throw ball one up, throw ball two up, and catch them in opposite hands. Then the same procedure with three balls. If I'm right-handed, I have two in the right hand. I throw ball one up, I throw the ball in the left hand, ball two up, and I ball three up, and I don't catch any of them. Then I get good enough in making perfect throws. I throw one ball up, two ball up, three ball up, and catch one. Let two and three